My name is Noah. I was on a cross-country road trip, just me and my beat-up old car, trying to figure out my life. I was somewhere in the middle of nowhere when a storm hit. Not just rain, but a sky that's falling apart kind of storm. The wind howled, the rain came down in sheets, and my car started making a sound. A loud, terrible hump-thump-thump from the rear. A flat tire. Perfect. I could barely see the road, but my phone's GPS showed a tiny dot of a town just a mile ahead. Harveston. I white-knuckled the steering wheel, driving on the rim, praying I'd make it. The welcome sign was almost swallowed by ivy. Harveston, a friendly place to grow. The paint was faded. The town itself was quiet. Too quiet for a late afternoon, even in a storm. The buildings on Main Street were old but neat, with fresh paint and flower boxes, but there were no people, no cars. The only light came from a diner at the end of the street called the Harvest Moon. I pulled up and stumbled out into the rain, rushing for the door. The second I stepped inside, every single sound stopped. The gentle clatter of cutlery, the low hum of conversation. It all died. Every person in the diner, about 10 of them, stopped what they were doing and turned to look at me. They didn't look angry or surprised. They just looked. And they all had the same gentle, polite smile on their faces. An older man in a sheriff's badge broke the silence. "Well, hello there," he said, his voice a warm drawl. He stood up. "Don't see many new faces during the harvest season." "You look like a drowned cat, son," I explained about my tire. The sheriff's smile never wavered. "No problem at all. Mike's our mechanic. His garage is just down the street. But he won't be able to look at it until tomorrow morning. Storms knocked a tree over on his shop door. You'll have to stay the night." My heart sank. You are watching the Tales of the Savannah. Subscribe and be part of the tribe. Now let's get back to the story. "Is there a motel?" A woman with kind eyes and a floral dress spoke from the counter. "Oh, no need for that, dear. We have a lovely guest room at the town's community house. It's our way of being neighborly, no charge." Her smile was wide and unwavering. It was incredibly generous. Too generous. But what choice did I have? The community house was a charming old building. My room was perfect. Almost too perfect. It felt like a showroom. The sheriff, whose name was Bill, brought me a home-cooked meal himself. A rich stew and the sweetest apple pie I'd ever tasted. "We're having our little harvest festival tomorrow," he said, still smiling. "You should stay for it. It's a shame to leave without seeing the best of Harveston," I agreed, mostly because I had no choice. The mechanic, Mike, confirmed my tire was shot and he'd have to order a new one. It would take 2 days. So I wandered the town, and things got weirder. Everyone smiled. Everyone was helpful. And their eyes didn't match. They were watchful, calculating. A little boy dropped his ball. I picked it up and handed it to him. He smiled a huge, toothy grin and said, "Thank you, mister. You're going to like it here." His mother pulled him away, her smile tight. I tried to use my phone, no service. The kind woman from the diner, Martha, saw me looking at it. "The valley blocks the signals," she said sweetly. "But we have a landline at the general store if you need to call anyone." I didn't trust it. That night I couldn't sleep. The pie sat heavy in my stomach. I heard a sound outside my window, a low, rhythmic chanting, like people singing a single, sustained note far away. I crept to the window and peered out. Down in the town square under the moonlight, the people of Harveston were gathered. They stood in a circle, facing a large, ancient-looking tree in the center. They weren't moving. They were just standing there, humming that low, eerie note. Their faces were tilted up, and even from a distance, I could see their smiles were gone. Their expressions were blank, empty. Sheriff Bill stood in the center by the tree. He raised his hands, and the humming stopped. The silence was heavier than the sound. He spoke, but I couldn't hear the words. The crowd bowed their heads as one. Then, as if on a signal, they all turned and looked directly up at my window. I jerked back from the glass, my heart hammering. They knew I was watching. A soft knock came at my door. "Noah?" It was Martha's voice, still sweet as honey. Is everything all right, dear? We thought we heard a noise. I didn't answer. I just stood there, frozen in the dark. All right then, she said after a moment. Sleep well. Big day tomorrow. The harvest is so important to us. I heard her footsteps walk away. I am writing this down in a notebook I found in the drawer. I don't know if anyone will ever read it. The festival is today. They've given me new clothes to wear, white pants and a white shirt, like everyone else will be wearing. They're hanging on the door. They look like they'll fit me perfectly. They're all waiting for me downstairs. They're all smiling. I don't think the flat tire was an accident. I think the storm brought me here for a reason. I think I'm the harvest. My name is Elias. I've been a search and rescue tracker for over 20 years. I know the smell of pine under snow, the way a crow sounds before a storm, the kind of silence that means danger. I know these woods better than the streets of my own town. That's why they called me when 3 hikers went missing in the northern reaches of the Gothic Reserve, a place most people don't enter once the snows set in. I didn't go alone. I took a team. Liam, young, strong, eager to prove himself. Dr. Aris, calm, sharp-eyed, always with her notebook. And Cora, a veteran ranger, older than me by a few years, steady as stone. We trusted each other, at least in the beginning. The first days were normal. Bitter cold, yes, but routine for us. We followed footprints half buried in ice. We scanned tree lines, checked gullies. At night we set campfires that hissed against the frost, and we sat close, telling stories to keep our blood moving. On the 3rd day we found the hikers' camp. Their tent stood half collapsed, shredded from the inside, canvas ripped in long, claw-like strokes. Supplies lay scattered, but untouched. No animal had done this. An animal would have gone for the food. That was the moment something shifted. Cora grew quiet. Later, as the fire spat sparks into the black sky, she spoke a single word in a low voice. Wendigo. The flames flickered hard in the wind when she said it, as if they too were listening. She told us the stories she'd heard since childhood. A man starving in winter, forced to eat the flesh of his own, cursed forever by hunger. Tall as the pines, thin as bones strung together, heart frozen, stinking of rot. A thing that used to be human, now nothing but appetite in the snow. Liam laughed, trying to shake the chill. Ghost stories, he said, rubbing his hands. The hikers probably just got lost and froze. But I saw Aris's eyes. The scientist in her didn't laugh. The scientific mind does not like what it cannot measure. The next morning we found the first hiker, half buried in a snowdrift, stiff as iron, his eyes still open and glazed with ice. His legs were gone from the knees down. The cuts weren't ragged. They weren't animal. They were clean, deliberate. Aris bent over the body, her face calm, but her hands trembled. Exposure, she whispered. But even she couldn't explain the missing legs. That night, the wind rose. But it didn't howl like normal. It whispered. Soft, stretched voices moving through the pines. I swear I heard my name on the gusts. Eli, as hungry. I didn't sleep. Liam was the first to change. By dawn, he was shivering, saying no fire could warm him. He stared at us in a way I didn't like. Not the stare of a friend, but the look of a butcher deciding what part of the meat to cut first. I'm hungry, he said, after eating every crumb of his rations. I've never been this hungry. We stopped trusting one another after that. Cora slept with her hatchet under her coat. I caught Aris staring too long at my neck, her breath coming in little clouds, her eyes hollow. On the 5th day, we found the second hiker, or what was left. Her torso was frozen against a rock, ribs cracked open like a box. The snow around her was dark. None of us spoke for a long time. That night, laughter came. It wasn't human. It was high-pitched, jagged, skipping between the trees like something mocking us. It sounded like hunger had grown a mouth. We broke. It was no longer a rescue mission. We began to retreat, fast. But the storm closed in, a white wall of ice and fury, trapping us in a narrow gorge. Food gone, fire dying, hunger like knives in the gut. Liam snapped first. I woke to a noise, a low scuffling. He was crouched over Aris's sleeping bag, not waking her, sniffing her. His head tilted, jaw slack, lips trembling, like an animal about to bite. "Liam!" I shouted. He spun toward me, and his eyes were wrong, not brown anymore, black, wide, empty, yet burning with hunger. He lunged for my throat with his teeth. Cora was faster than me. Her hatchet came down in one clean motion. The sound of it cut the night. It wasn't hatred, it was mercy. Liam fell. The hunger left his eyes, and for a moment he was just a boy again. Then silence. Snow falling like ash. And then we smelled it. The air filled with a scent, thick, metallic, sweet, cooking meat, richer than anything in the world. Our mouths watered, our stomachs twisted and growled so loud it echoed. Against our will, against our horror, we wanted it. That's when I understood. The Wendigo doesn't chase you. It doesn't claw through your tent. It doesn't need to. It waits. It whispers. It makes the hunger louder than thought, louder than loyalty. It tempts you to cross that line, to believe that survival has a price, and the price can be someone else. It's not just a monster in the trees. It's an idea. Cora stared down at Liam's body. Aris woke, saw it, and her reason cracked like ice under weight. She wept, but even as she cried, she leaned toward the smell. I saw the struggle in Cora's face, the same look I'd seen in Liam, the decision, the calculation. The storm howled, and the wind whispered again, clear this time. Just a little, just to live, just enough to get home. I couldn't stay. I turned my back on them, on everything we'd been through. I ran into the storm, into the white that burned my eyes and froze my lungs. I don't know how I lived. I don't remember much, only the sound of that whisper chasing me. They found me 3 days later, stumbling half dead on a logging road. I was the only one who came back. I told them the truth. They called it madness, the delirium of frostbite and grief. They closed the case, but I know better. The Wendigo isn't out there in the trees, it's in here. It's the hunger that wakes me at night, the memory of that smell, the look in my friend's eyes before the change. The curse is not a creature you kill, it's a thought. And once that thought enters you that a man could be food, it never leaves. It just waits for you to get hungry again. My name is Anya Sharma, Ranger, Field Officer, whatever you want to call it. My post was the Ravens Peak Biological Research Station, a squat little outpost buried deep in the alpine wilderness. It sat in a bowl of snow and fir trees, surrounded by peaks so sharp they looked like teeth. Our team was small. Dr. Evans, the lead botanist, all logic and tired eyes. Lena, his young assistant, full of questions and quick laughs. Ben, the technician, who could fix anything but couldn't sit still. Mark, the geologist, quiet and stubborn, and me, the ranger, there to keep everyone safe, to make sure nobody froze, fell, or vanished in the wild. For 3 months, it was routine. Notes, samples, weather logs. The kind of silence that feels safe. Then came the shakes. It started outside. The first deer we saw was in the meadow below camp. Its head jerked, twitching like a broken puppet. A thick black slime leaked from its eyes and nose. It stood there for hours, staring at nothing. Then, without warning, it charged a pine tree at full speed, smashing itself until the snow was red. We thought that was the worst of it, until the birds. They began falling from the sky, wings stiff, seizing on the ground. Then they'd rise, crazed, and hurl themselves at the station windows, smearing them with blood and feathers. Evans said it was a disease, a prion, something like chronic wasting disease, but mutated. His voice was calm, but his knuckles were white on his mug of coffee. We followed protocol, lockdown, report it, wait for extraction. But then the uplink died. The snowstorm hit like the end of the world, burying us. No satellite, no landline, no way out, just the sound of wind clawing at the walls. Mark was the first human to fall. He'd gone out to check the generator. When he came back, he looked pale, his breath sharp and shallow. He mumbled something about a rabbit. It bit me. Didn't even break skin. Then he slumped into a chair. Within hours, he twitched. First his eye, then his hand. By evening he was pacing, accusing us of whispering about him, of hoarding food. His eyes went glassy. His skin gave off a sweet, rotten smell, like honey left too long in the sun. We tried to quarantine him. Too late. That night we woke to screams. Not screams of pain, screams of rage, guttural, furious. Mark was in the common area, smashing his body against the reinforced door, shoulder hanging loose, fingers raw from clawing at the steel. When he saw us, his head tilted to the side in that strange animal way. Then he charged. We fought him back. Somehow, we got him into the storage closet. The thuds of his body, the scraping of his nails, became the rhythm of our nights. And in that moment we realized the real danger wasn't out there in the storm. It was inside these walls with us. There were 4 of us left: Evans, Lena, Ben, and me. The silence between us was unbearable. Every cough, every flush of cheeks from the cold, every rub of tired eyes. It could be nothing, or it could be the first sign. We divided the food, counted the water, armed ourselves with whatever we had: a fire axe, a tranquilizer gun meant for bears, a tray of scalpels. We stopped sleeping, staring at each other in shifts, waiting for the twitch. It was Ben who cracked first. The endless storm, the snarls from the closet, the waiting. It wore him down. One night he began laughing, high, broken laughter that made my stomach twist. "We're all gonna get it," he shrieked. "Why wait? Why pretend?" He lunged at Lena, not to kill her, I think, but to touch her, to break the loneliness. Evans fired the tranq gun. Ben dropped to the floor, silent at last, but not gone, just sleeping. And the closet still shook with Mark's fists. I am the ranger. My oath is to protect, even from my own. So I made a choice. While Evans and Lena dozed, I picked up the fire axe. I opened the closet. What I faced in there wasn't Mark. It wasn't human. Its body twitched in violent bursts, its mouth frothing black. The eyes were wild pits of nothing. It howled and came at me, and I did what I had to do. The silence after was worse than the pounding. I dragged Ben's limp body into the airlock, the decontamination chamber. I sealed him inside. He would wake up there, contained, safe, cut off from us. When I turned back, Evans and Lena were awake. They saw the axe in my hand. They saw the empty closet. They were already gone, I said. My voice sounded hollow to me. If any of us show signs, we go into the airlock. No arguments. That's the only way. Nobody replied. We just sat in that heavy, rotten silence. 2 days passed like that. We ate in silence, slept in shifts, watched each other for the tremor, the tilt of the head, the black drip from the nose. The storm broke on the 3rd day. The radio crackled back to life. The voice on the other end was sharp, warm, human. "Ravens Peak, this is rescue base. Do you copy? We have a team en route. What is your status?" We all jumped. Lena started crying. Evans grabbed the mic. His hand trembled, or maybe it twitched. His lips quivered when he spoke. "Ravens Peak copies," he said. His tone was too smooth, too calm. 3 survivors, 1 casualty. Disease is contained, awaiting extraction. It was the perfect lie, the kind of lie you cling to because it means you get to go home. But it hung in the air heavier than the smell of Mark's body. "The rescue team is coming. They'll take us to quarantine, they'll run their tests, they'll ask their questions. But I know, the shakes don't show up on a test until it's too late. By the time you can prove it, it's already inside you. The only thing that kept us from tearing each other apart was that locked airlock door. And soon, that door will open. We're leaving Ravens Peak. We're going back to the world, and we know we are carrying the sickness with us." My name is Dr. Aris Thorne, geophysicist, field lead. I was sent with a small team to the Hakon Deep Seismic Station, a bunker carved into the bedrock of a wildlife refuge so vast it seemed to go on forever. No towns, no roads, no rescue. Just us, buried in the stone, chasing something we didn't understand. Our mission sounded simple on paper. investigate a series of low-frequency vibrations that had been interfering with satellites, nudging them off their paths. The math said it was impossible. The funding said find out anyway, so we went. Me, Dr. Reed, my second-in-command, sharp as a blade but too quick to doubt. Ben, our audio tech, a joker until the headphones went on. And two graduate interns who mostly fetched coffee and tried not to get in the way. At first, it was routine. Data, measurements, long hours staring at screens. The hum was constant. A deep, subsonic vibration you couldn't hear so much as feel. It lived in your chest, in your bones, like the echo of a giant cat purring beneath the world. We laughed about it, called it the Earth's purr. Harmless. Or so we thought. It was Ben who caught the first sign that something wasn't right. He spent his nights with headphones on, combing through raw seismic audio, eyes glazed in the glow of his monitors. One night, his face went pale and he pulled me over. "This isn't geological, Aris," he said. He played it back. Beneath the hum was something else, a wet, grinding rhythm, like stone being chewed by enormous teeth, and threaded under that, God help me, a pulse. A sound that was not mechanical, not random, a heartbeat, slow, immense. It was alive, and it was 10 miles below our feet. A week later, the purr changed. It grew restless. The hum deepened into a groan that rattled equipment off tables. Hairline cracks spidered through the reinforced concrete walls, and that second sound, the heartbeat, it got clearer. And then there was a third layer. A whistling shriek, high-pitched, stretching through the bunker like air being forced through a hollow bone the length of a mountain. It wasn't noise anymore. It was music. A nightmare's symphony. We started calling the source the sleeper. That's when it began to work on us. The sound seeped into our sleep. Dreams turned to fever visions of black landscapes that bent in impossible ways, of skies filled with screaming veins of light. We woke irritable, paranoid. Dr. Reed refused to take off his headphones. He piped white noise into his ears 24/7, muttering, "It's talking. It's not singing, it's talking, and I don't want to know what it's saying." The rest of us couldn't help but listen, and he was right. The longer you listened, the more your mind tried to translate. It wasn't human language, but it had structure, rhythm, repetition. A pattern you couldn't unhear once you found it. A pattern that tore at reason itself. It was a language of madness. The crisis came suddenly. The sleeper's song shifted again. The groan became a roar so violent it cracked our glassware. The shriek sharpened into a screech that made teeth ache. The pulse raced like a heart jolting awake. And then the new sound arrived. A single note, thin, piercing, soft. But it felt like an ice pick driven straight into the spine. Ben was the first to hear it live. He didn't scream. He didn't cry out. He just froze. His eyes went wide with terrible recognition, as though something vast had just whispered a truth meant only for him. "It's so beautiful," he whispered. His voice shook. And then, calmly, methodically, he began smashing his own skull against the console. We dragged him down, sedated him, strapped him to a cot. He giggled in his sleep, black blood leaking from his ears. The sleeper's chorus filled every corner of the station. The roar was its voice. The shriek was its breath. The pulse was its heart. And that piercing note, that was its mind. It wasn't just awake. It was aware. And it was reaching for us. Dr. Reed broke next. He became convinced that our sensors, our drills, even our presence, were needles jabbing into its flesh. "We woke it," he ranted. "We're the infection. We have to stop." He tried to destroy the equipment, smashing sensors with a hammer before I wrestled him down. I had no choice but to lock him in the supply closet, pounding the door and cursing me with words that weren't all his own. That left me, alone in the control room with the sleeper's song bleeding through every wall. I realized then what we had done. We weren't scientists on the edge of discovery. We were children pressing our palms against glass, knocking on a cage we couldn't see. And now the thing inside was awake. The final stage began. The roar didn't just shake the walls anymore, it moved them. The floor rippled under my boots. Dust fell from the ceiling. The sleeper wasn't making sound, it was moving, it was digging upward. In desperation, I did the only thing I could think of. I rerouted all power, every generator, every battery, into the seismic array. Instead of listening, I sent feedback. A shrieking wall of sound blasted down into the depths. For one glorious moment it worked. The groan stopped, the pulse stopped, the shriek stopped. There was silence, and then it answered. The sound that came back wasn't a noise. It was a word so old, so hateful, and so immense that my brain couldn't hold it. To me, it was nothing but obliterating pain. It was a command, a dismissal, the sound of a god telling an insect to cease existing. Something tore inside my head. I remember falling. I remember blood in my mouth, then nothing. When I woke again, I was on the surface, snow in my hair, barefoot, my ears still bleeding. They told me a rescue team had been dispatched when comms went dark. They found the bunker collapsed in on itself. They found Ben's body. They never found Dr. Reed. They called me a survivor, gave me a medal, smiled for photographs. But I am not a survivor. I am a witness and a warning. They sealed the area, wrote it off as a seismic catastrophe, filed it away, but I know the truth. The sleeper is still down there, and I can still hear it. Not in my ears. They healed long ago. I hear it in the spaces between heartbeats, in the silence before sleep. That last word, etched into me forever. It's not gone. It's waiting. It learned we were up here, and now it's listening for us. My name is Marcus Boone. I've worn the Ranger's badge at Whisperwood for 10 years, long enough to know the rustle of a fox from the shuffle of a deer, long enough to tell a friendly breeze from the kind that carries a storm. But lately, there's been a new sound in my woods. A sound I can't get out of my head. It's the sound of missing children posters, paper flapping against bulletin boards in the wind. 3 kids, gone in 6 weeks. No tracks, no struggle, no bodies. Just vanished off the trails in the old-growth sector. The parents cried on the news, voices breaking, holding up school photos with desperate hands. I promised myself I'd find them. I promised. The search carried me deeper into the forest than I'd been in years, past the mapped trails, past the places hikers wander. The air there was wrong. Still, too still. The trees grew close together, their branches woven into a canopy that smothered the light. It didn't feel like walking into a forest, it felt like stepping into a cage, and that's where I heard it. A child's voice, thin, pleading. "Help! Please, help me!" My chest tightened. My boots pounded the dirt as I ran. I broke through a snarl of undergrowth and stumbled into a small clearing. It was circular, too circular, like it had been carved, not grown, and in the center stood an oak, huge, ancient. Its trunk gaped open, hollowed into a doorway of shadow. In that doorway stood a little girl, yellow dress torn, hair tangled. Lily, the first child who had gone missing, alive. I lifted my hand. "Lily." My voice was shaking. "Is that you?" She tilted her head, bird-like, and smiled. But it wasn't a child's smile. It was too wide, too empty. A man stepped out of the hollow behind her, gaunt, ragged animal skins draped from his shoulders, his eyes pale and bottomless, the same as hers. A woman followed, then 2 more children, Timmy and the last missing boy. They stood there, silent, watching me. A feral family. "You found us," the man rasped. His voice was like dry leaves across stone. "We're not lost. We're home." That's when I noticed the details. The grime under Lily's fingernails wasn't dirt. It was dark, flaky. Blood. Timmy clutched a rabbit's foot, the bone jutting sharp, not as a charm, but as a trophy. Their eyes didn't blink the way ours do. They blinked one at a time, like reptiles. They weren't survivors. They were predators. "We're hungry," Lily said, her voice sweet, perfect, pleading, still carrying the mimicry of an innocent child. The man stepped closer. "The woods provide," he whispered. "But the young ones, their voices call best." And then I understood. The missing children weren't victims. They were bait. The cries I'd followed through the trees weren't cries at all. They were lures, siren songs designed to draw me in. And I had walked straight into the trap. I fumbled for my sidearm. Too slow. The family didn't rush me. They didn't need to. The forest around me moved first. Shapes stepped from the shadows between the trees. Things that used to be animals. A stag with antlers sharpened into spears. A bear with bark where its skin should be, its fur hanging in tatters. The family was the shepherd, the creatures their flock, and I was the offering. I turned to run. The path was gone. The thorns had knit themselves into a wall. The gaunt man lifted a finger and pointed at me. "A new branch for the family tree," he rasped. "Strong, a good provider." The creatures closed in. I fired. The gunshot cracked like thunder. The stag flinched but kept coming. The bullet had done nothing. Cold bark pressed against my back. I was cornered, against the oak's hollow mouth. Lily's hand found mine, small, cold, stronger than it should have been. "Don't be scared," she whispered, her hollow eyes locked to mine. "You'll forget the before time. The hunger is peace." A prick on my neck. The woman behind me, a thorn smeared with something dark. My vision swam. My body turned to stone. I collapsed, the world narrowing. The last thing I heard was Lily's voice practicing, perfecting her call. "Help me. I'm lost. Please, someone." And then my radio crackled. "Boone? Boone, do you copy? We've got another one. A boy. Just went missing near your coordinates. His name's Jake." The gaunt man smiled. Thin. Terrible. The woman leaned close to my ear. Her breath was damp earth and rotting meat. "The woods provide," she whispered. Darkness came, but not like sleep. I could still see, still hear. I just couldn't move. Hands, small, strong, too many, dragged me into the hollow tree. The inside was a cathedral of rot and roots. The air was heavy with the stink of wet earth, old blood, and something cloyingly sweet, like flowers left to die. They propped me against the wall. I was a display, an exhibit. The feral family began their ritual. The man and woman butchered a fox with stone tools, the pelt peeled in one motion. The children watched, not with disgust, but with hungry eyes, learning every motion. Then Lily stepped to the doorway. She filled her lungs. "Hello?" she cried, her voice pure innocence. "Is someone out there? I'm scared, I'm lost." It was flawless, and I realized this was how they fed, not with claws or teeth, with the sound of innocence, the perfect lure. The toxin began to fade. Pins and needles sparked in my hands. My knife was still on my belt. This was my only chance. I forced my arm behind me, fingers fumbling, closing around the hilt. The click of the blade locking open echoed like a gunshot. Every head snapped toward me. The children's faces peeled into snarls. I didn't fight them. I cut the rope. The children shrieked. I ran, crawled, stumbled through the clearing, through clutching branches, chased by screams and snapping antlers. I burst onto a fire road, collapsed into the arms of a stunned search team. They pulled me up, asked me questions. I told them the truth. They wrote it off as exhaustion, stress, trauma. Jake was never found. I was discharged soon after. Whisperwood has a new ranger now. I live in a small apartment far from the trees, but I still hear her voice. Sometimes late at night my phone rings, a wrong number, a child's voice, and for a moment, just one, before my mind catches up, I hear Lily. "Help me. I'm lost." And I know. The hollow children are still out there. The woods provide, and the woods are still hungry. And that, my dear Savanians, brings us to the end of yet another spine-tingling episode in our Supernatural and Paranormal Encounters series. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. A heartfelt thank you to everyone who shared their stories with us. You may not realize it, but your experiences could be deeply relatable to others. Sometimes The very story you tell is the one someone else needs to hear, to feel seen, understood, and validated. If your tale was featured today, you've done more than entertain. You've connected us and reminded us that we are not alone in the strange and the unexplained. And now it's your turn, dear listeners. Do you have a chilling story of your own? Maybe it's something you experienced firsthand, or a tale passed down by a friend or family member. If it's the kind of story that makes us pause, look twice, and question every shadow, I'd love to hear it. Send it to the email address on your screen, and your story might just be the one we bring to life in our next episode. Until then, keep the lights on, trust your instincts, and remember, not everything can be explained. Tales, signing out. Want to support the channel and become an even bigger part of our tribe? You can join for as little as the cost of a coffee each month. Your support helps me continue creating the content you love, but of course, just having you here is already more than enough. Thank you for being part of this journey. To those of you who have already joined the tribe, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are truly the heartbeat of this channel. And as always, thank you for watching our story, and we hope you enjoyed it. What lessons did you draw from this story? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of the tribe. Thank you for watching The Tales of the Savannah. We will see you next time in the Savannah.